So the director of Love Actually, Richard Curtis, he's very ashamed of the fat jokes that were in the movie because you can't have anything nice anymore.
Okay, the worst part of this is that it was his own daughter that went to him and said he can't do fat jokes anymore. He can't make offensive jokes in his movies anymore. Mm-hmm. He also made Bridget Jones' Diary, Notting Hill, other like rom-coms like that. And one day she came up to him and just said, "You can't say the word fat ever again."
And it was his own daughter that said this.
Yeah.
Because
and,
the roles had been reversed.
She did an interview with him recently at some film festival where she just eviscerated his entire career. And I was like, reading this, like, put this brat in her place. Like, she's literally living off of the money you made from making these movies that people love.
Those fat jokes paid for your college education.
Yeah. So then he said, "Wow, you were right. In my generation, calling someone chubby was funny. In Love Actually, there were jokes about that. Those jokes aren't funny any longer." Since when?
They are definitely still funny. I make fat jokes about myself on a regular basis, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
It's also just realistic, especially for Bridget Jones' Diary, that you have a female character that's insecure about her looks. Yeah. Right. That would describe like 95% of females out there. Like, that's just reality, and they made jokes about it.
Right.
And she had to gain weight for that role.
And she couldn't put on the weight.
Does every chubby or fat character have to love the fact that they're fat? Because that's just not the way reality works.
And oddly enough, like, body dysmorphia is worse now than it's ever been in culture, thanks to the internet.
For a woman to be fat, or really anybody, like, that's something that decreases your quality of life. It makes you miserable and changes the way that other people treat you. Whether or not we like acknowledging that is a different story, but like, why would we have to live in a pretend world every time we watch a movie where every fat character just loves the fact that they're fat? Like, that's just not reality. That's not what people live and experience.
And that's why the movies don't connect, because the reasons that we connect with movies is because there is a subtle reality that you find that your brain connects with when you're watching it, which is what makes it feel authentic. It's like the jokes themselves, whatever you think of the jokes, movies had a way of like acknowledging the fact that our worst impulses towards humor are just they're entertaining, and that's unfortunately a fact of life, and you can't really fake that. You can pretend like inclusivity at all times without exception is something that resonates with people, but it really doesn't, because that's just not the way the world works, which is why when they try to implement those types of scenes in movies, it tends to fall flat, because it's not the actual human experience that most people live. Maybe it is for them. I'd argue that if you grow up in a Hollywood bubble, you're probably going to meet even more fake people than your average person will meet on a daily basis, right? Like, more people that are going to tell you what they think they need to tell you, or, you know, they're going to say whatever it is that's expedient to, you know, leverage whatever they can get from you. But like self-depreciate, like, a lot of people are self-deprecating, right? That's not an uncommon thing, and it's a fact of life. And that's real, and what's real works in movies, which is why these scenes work. And that's not even, and that's even, I think, giving it more credence than like more credit than it needs. Sometimes it's not that deep. Sometimes jokes are just funny.
Yeah. This is also sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, it's not like because someone's fat, they're like shoving him to the ground and degrading him for being fat. Like, it's not like that. And if I remember correctly, in Bridget Jones's Diary, the whole point is that she's chubby and she was self-conscious about it, but she was liked in spite of it. Like, people didn't care as much as she thought that they would care about it.
Also, I mean, there
like,
might actually
kind of a body positive message. If you think
it
about
actually
it.
really is.
There might be a gap here in like how men, like if it's a male writer, like how men behave with each other and talk to each other is a lot of times different than how women talk to each other. So you could be dealing with the fact that maybe it's a male writer writing female characters, and it's like, it's the meme that's like, it's like women's like, am I fat? No. Oh my God, you're so beautiful. If a guy says, am I fat? Your friend's like, bro, I know 5 fat people and you're 4 of them. Like, that's just like, if you've ever heard me and Dane talk to each other and you don't know that me and Dane are friends, you'd think we hated each other's guts, but that's just the way a lot of guys talk. It's like the internet's destroyed the ability to like have honest reactions to jokes. You're not allowed to just openly and honestly think something's funny unless it's stay in your own lane and it's humor against somebody exactly like you. If it's a joke about you, or if it's a joke, an all-encompassing broad joke about white people and you're white, you can find that funny. But otherwise, you're not really allowed on the internet to really find other things funny without somebody coming in and telling you that you're a bad person for finding that joke funny. But humor is universal. Everyone can find something funny about every group of people. The question is the intent of that person. I don't buy that the director of this movie, of Love Actually, is actually a bad person who's just out to harm other people. I think he understood that humor is a way to connect with people. And
for some reason, his daughter doesn't understand.
No, because she's what? She's a Zoomer, so she probably had her sense of humor surgically removed.
Yeah, exactly.
Surgically removed at birth.
Yeah. Do you like do fat jokes in movies bother you?
Not really. No.
Is there any type of humor that that does make you like? If you're watching a movie and there's all sorts of humor, is there any humor that does make you recoil? Like they've pushed the edges of what you find acceptable?
Probably.
Something, but
likely, yeah. I don't have one off the top of my head.
It's I can't really think of it. I mean, it's almost like the worse that it gets. Like in most movies and television, or what we've talked about here, is like you're more likely to be able to talk about like murder and people dying than you are sexual assault, right? So that's where a lot of people find the edge, right? They don't find that to be very funny, but there are people that will still go there and make those jokes. You won't see those in movies as much these days.
Yeah.
But it's just it's why the director of Joker, Todd Phillips, said that's why he stopped making comedies, because it's just too complicated now.
Right.
The people's sense of humor is too far gone.
Mm-hmm. There's like rules and parameters and set what is funny or what isn't funny anymore based on what like culture you're a part of.
Yeah, and what fun is that if you're a writer and your job is to write? Like he actually says that. He says like at the end he says. He basically mentions about how about writing something for like a community he wasn't part of. Like he's like I went to a very undiverse school.
Well, here it's because his daughter asked him, why does Notting Hill have majority straight white male characters? And he said, I wish I'd been ahead of the curve because I came from a very undiverse school and a bunch of university friends. I think that I've hung on the diversity issue to the feeling that I wouldn't know how to write those parts. I think I was just sort of stupid and wrong about that. He's just beating himself up about the fact
his daughter's like holding the lash.
Right.
The other problem here is like, look, he's actually wrong here, because if you try to write something that that isn't part of your lived experience, you also get crucified for that. Why would they yell at you for not writing the characters right? Because you can't possibly understand that world or where they come from. So how could you write them authentically?
His movies were majority straight white males or just like white people in general, because it was 1999 and people didn't care about diversity quotas. Mm-hmm. You can just be honest and just say that.
He would have never said, and plus it like to his daughter that wouldn't have made any sense.
Say it's just not a thought that crossed your mind, instead of that you were having some kind of internal battle about it.
I mean, like, if a movie was made in Zimbabwe, would they be like, why are all the main characters straight Zimbabwe?
This is a very uniquely Western culture issue right now.
Right, absolutely, exactly.
It is an output.
White guilt.
Yeah, and it's an output of just growing up in a more multicultural society now here in the West, where they expect you to, because if you go watch movies and like go turn on a telenovela, it will not be ultra diverse. Like it's just not, and nor should it be expected.
Write a rom-com about a Muslim couple where they can't hold hands. Everyone wants to see that.
There's also something about the fact that like offensive humor, even though I don't really think that at this time it would have been considered offensive, I think it would have just been par for the course. But offensive humor, when it's done right, like it connects with people in a visceral way that a lot of other types of humor just don't do now. I feel like a lot of the humor today is kind of told through the lens of an extremely cynical society, and like offensive humor was more cynical, but actually evoked more emotion. Like when I read like a lot of the humor that I find funny now, it's the type of it's the type of stuff you find funny because you're kind of half dead inside and it makes you laugh. Like when people making jokes about never being able to afford a home and stuff like that, or like how difficult it is to like do these types of things in America. It makes me laugh, but it makes me laugh in a like we're kind of effed sort of way. And that was
in
just
an
not the case
exhaling
back
out
then.
of the nostrils way.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. So it's just the movies these days, all the humor ends up having to be cutesy Reddit humor, or oh my gosh, that's so random, because it's completely inoffensive.
Oh, like Rick and Morty.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.